now move on to questions to the Attorney-General. Alistair Carmichael.
Number 1, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Attorney-General.
With permission, Madam Deputy Speaker, I will answer questions 1, 2 and 5 together. By convention, whether the law officers have been asked to provide advice and the contents of any such advice is not disclosed outside government. This protects our ability as legal advisers to give the government full and frank legal advice.
Alistair Carmichael.
Yes, somehow or another, I rather suspected that the answer would be something like that. The Attorney knows that I am one of her admirers and long have been so, right back to the days of her maiden speech. When I would remind the House, she said then, the European Convention on Human Rights is a masterful document and we must remain a signatory to it. She went on, in this country the courts are unable to quash an act of Parliament. It seems we have to restate that. While our court should have regards to the decisions of the ECHR, these are on the same footing and Parliament is sovereign. Can the Attorney confirm that that thinking still informs her assessment of these questions? Because if she can, I think the rest of us can join up the dots for ourselves.
Attorney-General.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, I would like to assure the Right Honourable Gentleman that the admiration is entirely mutual. And I would also like to assure the Right Honourable Gentleman that I heard very recently the Prime Minister from this dispatch box reassure the House that it is the government's policy to remain a signatory to the European Court of Human Rights.
Stuart C. MacDonald.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Articles 12 and 13 of the Trafficking Convention require states to support a trafficking victim's physical, psychological and social recovery, including through arrest and recovery period. But clauses 22 and onwards of her government's awful illegal migration bill expressly deny trafficking victims and slavery victims access to such support. Now, I too have a lot of respect for the Attorney-General, but she is going to lose support and respect if she continues to allow that bill to proceed in blatant breach of the Trafficking Convention.
Attorney-General.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, as I've said already today, all lawyers have a duty of confidentiality to their clients, and I am simply not permitted to tell the Honourable Gentleman, or indeed anybody else, what legal advice has been shared between our office and that of the government. The use of the Section 19(1)(b) statement in the case of this Act does not itself mean the bill breaches the ECHR. It just means that the Home Secretary cannot state the bill is more likely than not compatible with Convention rights. And if legal challenges are made, we will take all steps to defend our position in court.
Kirsten Oswald.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. I wonder if she can clarify for us what assessment she has made of the legality of amendments to the illegal migration bill aimed at sidestepping the Convention relating to the status of refugees, as well as ignoring the rulings from the European Court of Human Rights. And if these were to be accepted by the UK Government, what does she think this means? Does she think that it could place the UK's place on the Council of Europe at risk?
So, as I said earlier, I'm not able to share my assessment, but what perhaps might be useful to the House to know is when a 19(1)(b) statement has previously been used. It was used by Tessa Jowell in relation to the Communications Act in 2003, and she said words very similar to those I've just used. It doesn't mean that we believe the bill to be incompatible, and we would mount a robust defence if it were to be legally challenged. It was challenged. It was challenged all the way up to the ECHR, and I understand that in the end the government won by 9 votes to 8.
Chair of the Select Committee, Sir Robert Neal.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I have no doubt, nor has anyone in this House, as to the Attorney's commitment to the European Convention on Human Rights, or that of those on this side of the House either. But would she agree that, as well as the fact that the Section 19(1)(b) statement, whilst unusual, is not unique, It's also important to remember that the whole of our case law system depends upon the existing legal precedent being tested from time to time in the light of changing and emerging factual circumstances to which that case law or existing statute can then be applied. The testing of the legal position is not any kind of illegality or impropriety at all.
Attorney General.
Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, I'd like to agree wholeheartedly with the Chairman of the Select Committee. I very much feel that it is perfectly proper for lawyers, and government lawyers in this case, to test a new and novel idea before the courts. In fact, that's one of the reasons I very much enjoyed my career in the government legal service. It is something that we frequently do as government lawyers, and one of the main reasons why people ought to apply to join.
Hear, hear.
Peter Bone.
Madam Deputy Speaker, thank goodness I'm not a lawyer. I mean, we got an excellent minister who's spent the whole of this question not answering it. There are 3 different conventions, completely different, all grouped together. I have no idea why. It seems to me what we want is the minister to answer the question. Can I try one? On the European Convention Against Human Trafficking and Council of Europe thing, it's clear that people who come across in boats are smuggled. That's not part of the convention. But people already here who are forced into prostitution or slave labour should be protected by that convention. And could the Attorney General tell us, please answer, that we are going to amend the immigration bill so that those people are still protected? A yes or no will do.
Attorney General.
The honourable gentleman is a staunch defender of the procedures and propriety of our activities in this House, and I know that he will agree that it is important that the Law Officers Convention is upheld. As I've said previously, I cannot share my advice with this House. I would very much like to do so, but I'm unable to do so, and I would refer the House to the notes which accompany the illegal migration bill for the government's position.
Shadow Solicitor General Andy Slaughter.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Last month, the Attorney General told the Justice Select Committee that it is particularly important that government lawyers work to keep the government acting properly and within the rule of law. The Constitution Committee found in January that the government had twice knowingly introduced legislation which undermined the rule of law, the Internal Market and Northern Ireland Protocol bills. This illegal migration bill, even before her own backbenchers are finished with it, is a further example of that. When will the Attorney General's first duty, her words, as an officer of the court, trump her loyalty to a law-breaking government?
Attorney General.
My first duty is to the court and to the rule of law. I have absolutely no hesitation in restating that as often as the honourable gentleman wishes me to. It is something I believe very deeply, and I know that the Solicitor General agrees with me as well. Our advice on the illegal migration bill is not something we are able to share with the House. The use of the Section 91B statement is, as I've explained, unusual but not unprecedented and certainly not improper.
SNP spokesperson Angela Crawley.
Madam Deputy Speaker, it is no secret that the Attorney General has reservations about the illegal migration bill, and it is also no secret that the far right of her party are intent on rebellion to push this bill further in breaking international law. Will she do the honourable thing today and confirm that if the PM concedes on this, she will take a stand and declare the bill unlawful?
Attorney General.
I'm very pleased that the illegal migration bill passed the committee stage of this House without amendment.
Kerry McCarthy.
Question 3, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Madam Deputy Speaker, tackling violence against women and girls remains a key priority for the government. We're doing everything possible to make our streets and homes safer for women and girls, not least through our joint national action plan that has seen a significant increase in charge volumes for adult rape since January 2021.
Kerry McCarthy.
Right, I thank the Minister for that answer, but government statistics published this morning showed that 29% of Crown Court cases have been open for more than a year, while Rape Crisis is reporting, as in response to FOI requests, that there's a record backlog of sexual assault and rape cases with trials frequently postponed. what impact does he feel that that backlog, that situation in the courts, is having on the CPS's ability to prosecute rape cases?
I am very grateful to the Honourable Lady for raising an important issue. It is right to say that time from charge to completion is being reduced, but she's right. It is still too long. One thing that will encourage victims to stay within the criminal justice process, which is what we all want to see, is support from independent sexual violence advisors. Guidance is being put on a statutory regard on that footing. In her local area, she may be interested to know that I spoke to her Chief Crown Prosecutor in person yesterday in Bristol in a neighbouring constituency. She is doing an excellent job. And last year, suspects charged for adult rape in the CPS South West area more than doubled.
Jane Hunt.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. The whole House would, I'm sure, want to see much higher prosecution rates for people who commit the appalling crime of raping women and girls. What impact does he believe that the brilliant Operation Soteria will have on prosecuting these cases?
Solicitor General.
Well, I'm very grateful indeed for my honourable friend's question. She is absolutely right to raise Operation Soteria, and it links, in fact, to the Honourable Lady's question as well, because Operation Soteria was founded in her area. It is making a significant difference, and the volume of adult rape suspects charged has more than doubled in the last year.
Daniel Zeichner.
Number 4, please.
Solicitor General.
Madam Deputy Speaker, thank you very much indeed. We are determined to strengthen our response to all forms of economic crime, including fraud, and the Government will soon publish a new fraud strategy to address this threat. And both the CPS and the SFO play an important role in bringing fraudsters to justice.
Daniel Zeichner.
Well, the Minister will be aware that each September the International Symposium on Economic Crime, organised by Professor Barry Ryder, meets at Jesus College in Cambridge. And the issue of establishing a dedicated anti-fraud or economic crime agency is frequently raised. Can you tell the House what consideration has been given to this, and tell us what he's doing to promote education, prevention and discouragement of fraud through effective early compliance?
Solicitor General.
Well, I'm grateful for the Honourable Gentleman's question, and I am aware because I've been invited to speak at it this year. And I very much hope to see the Honourable Gentleman there, where we can discuss this subject even further. But he'll be aware of the National Economic Crime Centre, which was launched in 2018, and that leads the UK's operational response to economic crime. In terms of his wider question, he'll be aware of the Government's fraud strategy, which will be released soon.
Shadow Attorney General Emily Thornsworth.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker. Every day that passes, more lives are destroyed by fraud. We urgently need to have a government which understands the scale of the crisis and has a plan to tackle it. The Prime Minister told us 5 months ago, he stood at that dispatch box and told us that the government will shortly publish our fraud strategy to block more scams and better protect the public. And the solicitor has told us again today that it's going to come shortly. Do they have a different concept of time? I mean, what do they mean by shortly, and how much longer are we going to need to wait? Or is this another government that just makes big promises on crucial issues and delivers absolutely nothing?
Solicitor General.
No, the Shadow Attorney General is not right about that. The fraud strategy will be published, and in terms of delivery, she'll be pleased to hear that in the 12 months ending last year, the CPS prosecuted over 6,000 defendants where fraud and forgery was the principal offence, and the conviction rate was over 80%. This is a government that has delivered and will continue to deliver in this area.
Wendy Chamberlain.
Question 6, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Attorney General.
I, last week, met the Minister for Immigration to discuss how we can increase the prosecution rate further for those who engage in this dangerous offending. I'm pleased to report that there's been a significant increase in all immigration prosecutions since the end of June last year, with the CPS bringing 260 prosecutions and so far securing 164 convictions.
Wendy Chamberlain.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Increasing prosecution rates is an important way of tackling people trafficking, but another way is ensuring safe and legal routes for people seeking asylum. As APPG co-chair for the All-Party Parliamentary Group on Women and Girls, we've already written to the Government looking for support for those very vulnerable groups. Does she accept that her assessment to the Government on the illegal migration bill might be better if safe and legal routes were progressed at the same time?
Attorney General.
I thank the Honourable Lady for her work on the important APPG that she does. She will have heard my answer to the previous question. I do think that the government needs to use every tool available to it to stop these very dangerous crossings. One of those tools available to us is prosecution, and those are going well. Another tool is working very closely with the French government, and I think it's important to note that the French this year have prevented 31,000 crossings, nearly 50% up on this time last year.
Elaine Saxby.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The government, I know, is working flat out to stop people smuggling from continuing with their evil trade and ensure that they are brought to justice. What assistance is the Crown Prosecution Service providing to investigators regarding small boat pilots and other people traffickers?
Attorney General.
The Crown Prosecution Service is working hard on these prosecutions and will not hesitate to those suspected of immigration offences whenever the legal test is met. They're focusing both on the pilots of small boats and also on disrupting supply chains of people traffickers and organised crime gangs.
Jessica Morden.
Question number 7, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Solicitor General.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the Attorney and I meet the Secretary of State regularly and discuss numerous issues. Where those issues touch on legal issues and advice, the Honourable Lady will know and will have heard the Attorney very clearly set out the Law Officers Convention.
Jessica Morden.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Imprisonment for public protection sentences were abolished in 2012, but it didn't apply retrospectively. So a constituent of mine whose son is serving an IPP dating back from before this date has told me how this causes continued uncertainty and disruption for the whole family and concern about their son's mental health deteriorating. Can the Minister commit to working to reach a consensus on how best to address these long-standing IPP cases?
Solicitor General.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the Honourable Lady raises a very serious point, and I'm grateful to her. It is right to say that IPPs were first introduced in 2003. She's right. They were abolished in 2012, but not retrospectively, nor properly could they have been. Further reforms were introduced last year, but it is right to say that by definition those in prison on IPPs have not been assessed as safe to release. But I will certainly put the Honourable Lady in touch with the Prisons Minister to discuss this matter further.
Stephen Metcalfe.
Number 8, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Solicitor General.
Madam Deputy Speaker, the CPS runs an award-winning and highly competitive legal trainee scheme that has seen hundreds of trainees undertake a training contract and/or pupillage across England and Wales with the CPS since 2012.
Stephen Metcalfe.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and can I thank my honourable friend for his answer. But building on that, can he tell the House what particular steps he is taking to encourage people from a more diverse background to consider the law as a career?
Solicitor General.
I'm very grateful indeed to my honourable friend for raising this important issue, and the CPS has extended its postgraduate qualification requirements to include new solicitors' qualification examinations, which opens up a career to a more diverse audience. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, you'll be pleased to know the CPS was ranked number 1 on the Universum rankings for the last 3 years as being a highly attractive employer to law students. Could I commend to my honourable friend, and indeed to you, Madam Deputy Speaker, visiting your local chief Crown prosecutors to find out more, to encourage law students to sign up to the CPS. I addressed the Leaders' Conference of the CPS in Bristol yesterday, and they're very keen to meet us all.
Liz Twist.
Question 9, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Attorney General.
We know the serious impact that persistent antisocial behaviour can have on both individuals and the wider community. Those who commit antisocial behaviour will face swift and visible justice, increased fines and enhanced drug testing as part of the government's new action plan.
Liz Twist.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And as the Minister says, the impact of antisocial behaviour on communities is terrible, like those in Winlayton, in my constituency. So I'm glad the government's finally seen the light and increased sentences. But does the Attorney General regret the fact that the government allowed the use of community sentences to fall by 62% between 2010 and 2021 and let those sentences become so much weaker?
Attorney General.
I know that there has been a particular problem with antisocial behaviour in the Honourable Lady's constituency, and as a result, her police force, the Northumbria Police Force, will be receiving Trailblazer funding for both immediate justice and for hotspot policing. I think it's important that the courts are able to use the wide range of sentences available to them.
And final question, Virginia Crosby.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Arnismore has received more than £695,000 from the Safer Streets Fund, and I'm delighted that some of the funds are being used by Monsief for first aid courses and the North Wales Police for free boxing sessions for women and girls at the Canolfan in Holyhead, which the Attorney-General is welcome to attend. Can the Attorney-General confirm to my Arnismore constituents that in addition to making Anglesey streets safer, that this government is committed to cracking down on antisocial behaviour?
Attorney General.
I thank the Honourable Lady for her question, and I know what a great champion she is for her constituency. I do think that the plan unveiled this week will make a real and visible impact to antisocial behaviour around the country. It will be very interesting to see the learning that we get from the areas that have been targeted. They've been targeted for a reason, because there are particular problems, and I think that the impact will be swift.
Thank the Attorney